Every dramatic dip and every dance move and every outfit tells a story about the performer. A story about who leads, who follows, and who's allowed to be strong and who's expected to be soft. These choices might look like just choreography, but really they're culture in motion. My name is Jaden Shaw, and this is my research project, The Strength Behind the Sequence, How Youths Untangle Gender in Dance. Through this study, I explore how teens perceive masculinity and femininity across Latin, cultural, and contemporary dance styles, and whether these performances reflect tradition or transformation. Why is it? It's not working. Hold on 1 second. Yeah. Okay, framing the study. Having immersed myself in competitive ballroom dance since October 2017, I've spent thousands of hours refining both the technical and expressive aspects of the craft. My extensive experience as a gold-level Latin dancer uniquely equips me to conduct a study on adolescent perceptions of gender roles in dance. Over 7 years of studying, practicing, and performing, I have repeatedly encountered how the conflict between traditionally masculine and feminine roles is emphasized through choreography and costuming. For instance, Latin dances such as rumba or samba often highlight distinct masculine and feminine expressions, an effect I've observed both as a performer and as a choreographer. Having competed in multiple national competitions, including placing third in my division at the 2024 Latin Dance World Championships, I have also gained first-hand insight into how audience reception interacts with performance. These experiences gives me a nuanced perspective on how different dance styles are perceived and how gender is portrayed and interpreted within them. So the societal relevance. Frederick Goldson et al. Highlights that more young people today identify beyond the traditional gender binary, with current trends indicating that LGBTQ communities will continue to grow in the years ahead. Given that dance is a deeply performative art form shaped by visual expression and societal values, the increasing visibility of diverse gender identities invites a re-examination of whether dance still reinforces rigid gender roles or if it is evolving towards a more inclusive and fluid expression of identity. Although existing research directly linking LGBTQ+ identity to perceptions of dance remain limited, increased inclusion in arts, education, and popular media suggests a larger cultural shift towards non-binary understandings of gender. These perceptions matter. If adolescent viewers interpret dance as reinforcing outdated gender stereotypes, that may signal areas where broader cultural acceptance of gender diversity is lagging. On the other hand, if they view dance as a liberating medium for authentic self-expression, that could reflect progressive shifts towards more inclusive, fluid understandings of gender identity. Either interpretation provides valuable insight into how the performance arts may support or resist cultural change. Now to operational definitions. This study relies on a few operational definitions, beginning with masculinity and femininity. Masculinity and femininity are defined using the BEMS Sex Role Inventory, or BSRI. Masculinity is operationalized as a presence of traits such as assertiveness, dominance, ambition, competitiveness, independence, and athleticism. Femininity is operationalized as the presence of traits such as tenderness, affection, gracefulness, warmth, and cheerfulness. These traits and more were referenced by participants using a BSRI provided word list to describe the dancer's behavior and presentation in the videos. Gender roles are defined as the socially constructed expectations assigned to individuals based on their gender, particularly as they relate to leadership, emotional expression, and physicality in dance. In this study, gender roles are operationalized through participant interpretation of choreography, partner dynamics, and expressive qualities in each performance. Reinforcing versus challenging traditional gender norms is defined as follows. A dance performance is said to reinforce traditional gender norms when it aligns with binary expectations. For instance, when men are portrayed as strong leaders and women as graceful followers. Conversely, a performance is said to challenge traditional norms when dancers subvert these rules, share leadership and responsibilities, display non-traditional traits, or express gender fluidity. This concept was also operationalized based on participant statements during interviews, indicating whether performance upheld or questioned traditional ideas of masculinity and femininity. Now on to the literature view. The study of gender roles in dance has long been a focal point in discussions of cultural representation, identity formation, and socialization, as Butler in 1990 and Sanderson 2001 state. Dance as a performative art form serves as a way for reinforcing gender norms, yet it also has the potential to subvert and push against long-standing paradigms. Throughout history, dance has been a mirror reflecting societal expectations about gender, shaping and reinforcing cultural ideologies. However, dance also provides an avenue for challenging these norms, offering a space where gender can be fluid, deconstructed, and reimagined. The following review synthesizes existing literature on gender representation in dance, addressing how masculinity and femininity are shown through movement, costume, and cultural perception, while critically evaluating the ways in which adolescent audiences engage with these portrayals. Gender performativity in dance. The performative nature of gender, as theorized by Butler in 1990, suggests that masculinity and femininity are not inherent traits, but rather social constructs reinforced through repeated actions. This framework is especially applicable in dance, where choreographic and costume choices dictate the ways in which gender is performed and perceived. Butler's theory highlights how these gendered performances shape societal expectations and become internalized by individuals, influencing not only dancers but also the way audiences interpret gender through movement. Dance's ability to convey gender through performance adds layers of complexity as audience interpretations vary based on their own cultural and societal conditioning. By analyzing dance through this lens, we see how gender identity is an ongoing performance rather than a static reality, continuously shaped by the cultural reception and artistic intent. Jack Halberstam, 2014, expands on Butler's ideas by examining the instability of gender categories, particularly in cultural expressions like dance. Halberstam describes gender as an ever-evolving concept, influenced by cultural and societal forces rather than a rigid, predetermined identity. This perspective helps reveal how dance can simultaneously uphold traditional gender roles and serve as a platform for breaking those boundaries. Latin dance traditionally emphasized strong, commanding movements for male dancers and fluent, elegant motions for female dancers, reinforcing long-standing gender norms. However, recent performances have started to experiment with role reversal and gender-fluid styling, providing fresh insight into how movement can defy conventional expectations. This shift is particularly evident in contemporary dance competitions and choreographic interpretations that challenge rigid gender binaries, signaling a cultural shift in the perception of dance as a gendered art form. As more choreographers and performers embrace gender-neutral movement patterns, the impact of these shifting norms on audience reception remains a critical area of study. Judith Lorber, 2006, contributes another important viewpoint, focusing on how institutions discipline gendered bodies. Lorber's framework is especially important to dance, as training structures, performance expectations, and costuming all function to regulate acceptable gender expressions. This discipline manifests in the reinforcement of binary roles within traditional dance styles, where men are expected to lead and exhibit strength, while women are expected to follow and embody fluidity and grace. However, the rigid structure is increasingly being questioned in contemporary dance teaching methods, as more instructors and performers push against these norms to allow for greater fluidity in movement and expression. More dance institutions are embracing a flexible approach to gender roles, allowing dance to experiment with different roles traditionally assigned based on gender. This shift is particularly apparent in contemporary ballet and modern dance, where female dancers take on movement traditionally assigned to male dancers and vice versa, further disrupting the structured expectation of dance performance. Moving on to adolescent perception of gender in dance. Research on adolescent engagement with gendered dance portrayals highlights the formative influence of media consumption on social attitudes, as Sanderson 2001 explains. Adolescents, who are in an important time for shaping identity, internalize and interpret these representations through the lens of their own social experiences. Sanderson 2001 found that adolescent attitudes towards dance are deeply gendered, with male dancers often facing stigma due to the feminization of dance in Western cultures. The notion that dance is inherently feminine discourages many boys from pursuing dance as an activity or profession, reinforcing harmful stereotypes about masculinity and self-expression. This stigma is especially evident in school environments, where male students who express an interest in dance are often marginalized or discouraged from participation. Addressing these societal biases requires a rethinking of how dance is taught and presented to young audiences. Miki Alicia Gilbert, 2009, criticizes this binary model of gender valuation, arguing for a framework that moves beyond bigenderism to create a space of expression that are not confined by original societal norms. Similarly, Fredrickson Goldson et al. 2016 highlights that more young people today identify beyond the traditional gender binary, like explained in the relevance today. Dance as a reinforcement or subversion of stereotypes. While certain dance forms reinforce traditional gender stereotypes, others often offer a platform for resistance and subversion. Denny's 2011 analysis of gender roles in Dancing with the Stars demonstrates how conservative audiences reconcile non-conforming gender portrayals with pre-existing beliefs, often reinterpreting them to fit within traditional frameworks. In contrast, Christodoulou's 2017 argues that contemporary dance institutions increasingly provide spaces where gender fluidity is normalized, albeit within specific sociocultural contexts. The tension between reinforcement and subversion is particularly evident in male ballet dancers' strategies for navigating societal expectations. Some embrace hypermasculinity to counteract stereotypes, while others reject binary constraints altogether, as Polsek and Roper 2011 stated. These cases illustrate the complexity of dance as both an upholder of traditional and a potential site for progressive change. As more performances challenge traditional notions of masculinity and femininity in dance, it becomes imperative to examine how audiences react to and interpret these portrayals, particularly among younger generations. Addressing the gap. Despite the breadth of existing research, significant gaps remain regarding the perception of gender roles in dance among adolescent viewers. Most prior studies focus on the experience of dancers themselves rather than on audience reception, as Denny 2011 and Risner 2007 focus on. Furthermore, much of the literature predates contemporary discourse on gender fluidity and LGBTQIA+ representation in performance arts. Robin Wigman, 2002, discusses concerns about the shift from women's studies to gender studies, concerns that resonate with contemporary debates over how dance as an art form navigates changing conceptions of gender. This study seeks to fill these gaps by investigating how adolescent audiences interpret gendered representations in dance, thereby contributing to a more comprehensive understanding of dance as both a cultural artifact and a site of potential social transformation. Expanding research on audience perceptions of gender in dance can provide insights into how evolving societal attitudes are reflected in cultural expressions, shaping the future of dance performance and instruction. This study was guided by the following research question. How do adolescent dancers perceive masculinity and femininity in various dance styles, and what factors reinforce or challenge traditional gender roles? This question provided a lens through which the research examined how young people evaluate the gendered elements of dance performance, specifically through Latin, cultural, and contemporary styles. Now moving on to the methodology and data. This study consisted of 4 participants, comprising of 2 males and 2 females, aged 13 to 18. These participants were recruited based on their interest in dance from various high schools in the southwestern United States. A smaller number of participants was intentionally selected to allow for in-depth, personalized interviews and to ensure manageable thematic coding. Gender balance was maintained to avoid bias and reflect a broader range of perspectives on masculinity and femininity. All participants had experience with various dance styles, whether as performers or viewers, including Latin, contemporary, and hip-hop. Informed consent was obtained from all participants, including parental consent for minors, and ethical approval was granted by the appropriate institutional review board before beginning the study. These 3 videos examples were selected to provide participants with diverse representations of dance and gender expression. Each video was chosen due to its high prestige within its respective dance category. Phil Wizard becomes the first b-boy to win an Olympic gold medal at the Paris 2024 Olympics. This video was selected due to its prestigious status as the first Olympic gold medal performance in breakdancing, a style traditionally associated with masculinity and physical strength. The video allowed for analysis of participants' perceptions of masculinity within a contemporary, competitive, and globally recognized context. Further, the Bruins Bhangra. This video was chosen for its first place win at the prestigious Bruin Bhangra competition. It showcased cultural dance and provided insight into how traditional gender roles and expressions manifest and evolve within culturally specific and competitive performance contexts. Further, Troel's and Ina Rumba presentation from the UK Open of 2019. This Latin dance performance was included due to its prestige of the UK Open, one of the most respected ballroom competitions internationally. Although it was not competition-winning performance, the dancers were invited to present, highlighting their recognition and professional status. This performance provided insight into participant perceptions of traditional gender dynamics within elite Latin ballroom contexts. Moving on to procedure. To support participants in articulating their perceptions of gender traits, each was provided with a list of terms from BEM's Sex Role Inventory, a standardized psychological tool that identifies traditionally masculine and feminine traits. A semi-structured interview guide was created, featuring open-ended questions designed to explore participants' perceptions of masculinity, femininity, and gender expression within each performance. Participants were first introduced to the research topic through an informal, conversational introduction that emphasized confidentiality, openness, and the absence of right or wrong answers. Each participant took part in an individual interview lasting approximately 20 minutes, conducted in a private, quiet setting. During the interviews, participants watched each of the 3 selected videos and were asked to describe their observations using either the BSRI terms or their own language. Interviews were audio recorded using digital recording equipment, and recordings were securely stored and transcribed verbatim for analysis. On to my analysis. Interview transcripts underwent thematic analysis following Braun and Clark's 2006 method. This involved initial open coding to identify recurring ideas and descriptors related to masculinity, femininity, and gender expression. These codes were then systematically categorized into broader themes and sub-themes. Participants' responses were cross-referenced to ensure consistency and reliability in identifying